The Eurovision Song Contest. It's a state of play. It's a state of play. Get all the updates. Join the conversation with Alesia Michelle. Starting now. Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Eurovision State of Play. I am your host, Alesia Michelle, and if you've never been here before, welcome. This is your opportunity to like this video and to subscribe. So it's a special edition of the Eurovision State of Play because we had semifinal 1. We had semifinal 2. Tomorrow we have the grand final of the 2025 Eurovision Song Contest. We got the running order. This is a very special edition of this State of Play because I am hoping to have some special guests join us to get into this discussion. But you know what? The only special guests I need are you all. This is live. Mate says, what an amazing ESC season we have so far. Lori, I believe everyone is exhausted over the last couple of days. K-pop Erica, please win. Lori, hey Alesia, how are you? Oh goodness, Zikani says, girl, I am ready for this live with snacks and drinks. Look, we love snacks. We love a little sippy sip, a little drinky drink, you know? So we're going to get into this. And Giorgio says, hello, Alesia. Can my number one Sweden still win? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about it. But you know what? I want to start this stream off. And I'm going to do something that we've done before. We've done this before. And I just want everyone to take a collective breath in. Let's hold it and then breathe it out. Breathe it out. We've had an amazing, very interesting Eurovision season. We lost some of our favorites along the way. But tomorrow, we're going to find out who is going to be victorious. We're going to find out who is going to win the 2025 Eurovision Song Contest. And we can, light a candle for those we lost along the way. We can honor those folks by streaming the music. We can honor them by showing them some love on the internet. Because we're going to miss some of them. We're going to miss some of them tomorrow night on the stage. But that's the name of the game. It's Eurovision. Okay? Let's take another collective breath in. And let's breathe that on out. All right. All right. I thought we needed to do that. Because, we're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to talk about some stuff getting robbed and everything. But, at the end of the day, it's the Eurovision Song Contest. Okay? So we knew everyone couldn't be on the stage tomorrow night. We knew it wasn't going to happen, okay? All right. Let me hop back into the chat. Okay, so Slim Jim Random says, Denmark in the final, so happy. Tiago loved how Portugal challenged the bookies. Hebeke, please come back, Mentisa. Slim Jim, I'm going to miss my milkshake man. Faustino, Greece could have been top 5 or even 3 yesterday. It had a lot of good responses and millions of views in just 18 hours. Okay, let's get into this conversation because, I just want to say, we're going to just talk about a little bit of like the songs that got away. And you know what? Because I'm a little bit dramatic, let's go. Okay. We're going to talk about the people that should have made it to the grand final, in your opinion. Okay? I'm expecting to see some comments. This is also the justification round, okay? This is your opportunity to tell me, Alesia, you were wrong. You are wrong, girl. Let's get into it. Okay? Oh, y'all ready? Okay, K-pop 24/7, like a party in the sky. And that is where it will remain. In the sky. Because it ain't gonna be on the Eurovision Grand Final stage. Okay? Ireland is out. Okay? We missed out on Ireland. Ireland's one of those songs that got away. And I think ultimately what happened here with Ireland, I think we can all recognize that this was maybe one of the weaker studio cut songs. Like it maybe was. Like so we could start off there. We could also say that maybe they had an opportunity to really bring it to life on stage. I'm gonna tell you right now, when I saw Luxembourg staging, I'm like, Ireland, y'all should have done that. Y'all could have done that. But they didn't. But they didn't. So Luxembourg qualified, and Denmark did too. Okay, let's talk about Alexander, Slovenia in semifinal one, Australia in semifinal two. I mean, with Slovenia, they had no momentum. They really, really didn't. I thought the casuals might be able to be picked up by it, but I think we're realizing now that the casuals aren't so casual. I'm gonna be real. I think the fandom has bled over into the mainstream. How you like that? How you like that? Oderin says, honestly, just Belgium. That performance was slick and honestly a standout in the semi, but those vocals weren't it. Faustino says, Czechia flopped with that staging. He also missed the start of the chorus. Tony says Ireland was way too static and suffocated their own and suffocated their own energy by it. They should have had Emmy move more. Maybe Emmy didn't really have the ability to move that much. Maybe that's what we were looking at. I don't know. Epic. Would have Ireland qualified if Bobby or the other songs were chosen? I'm gonna be real with you. I think Niall and Bobby could have qualified. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I'm delusional, but I actually do. I think one of them could have qualified. I, Ireland had stronger songs at the national selection, and I think that that's just the fact of the matter. And I really feel like the late show format is not the best, because I think you have people going like, well, that was the best, most together one, talking about like a party on the late show stage. And I said this pretty like closely after. I was like, who cares if it was good on the late show stage? We've got months to prepare, and we have budget. Like Ireland's not coming here with pennies trying to figure something out. So that's what I'm living in. Nicholas from Ireland RTR, a broadcaster needs to really invest a proper national selection, not a special edition of a talk show with small staging and bad sound mixing. Okay, Miguel, Armenia made so much sense. I was watching with Eurovision Virgins and they loved it. I mean, look, like there is and I said this in my stream, there's a market, for the car commercial music. And I highlighted my stepdad like loves this brand of like music, like absolutely loves it. So that's it. AM says Australia's choreo and pitchy start had me worried throughout. Um, and then Liam, as a package, Cyprus would have been nice to have in the final. Here's the thing, I'll tell you this. I think with Cyprus, we've learned if the song ain't there and you can't generate that momentum and buzz early on, then you're only kind of going off the staging. I think that some of the songs that missed out, it was a little bit of a first impression issue. Eve said Czechia never impacted me massively, and Australia's staging was not worthy of the final. Shame, because the song is nice. McRammy Marsh says, I actually cried when Czechia failed to make it. I knew it was gone when Armenia was announced, but it hurt. Miguel, Armenia made so much sense. Oh, yeah, we already got that comment. Okay. Uh, okay, this comment says Belgium had better staging at the national performance. Shouldn't have changed it. I think there were some issues with recreating it completely different sort of stage setup. So I think they were always going to have to make a couple of tweaks. So just noting that I think that's what happened with that. And then Knitmints, Alicia, do you think Greece will get some points from the juries? I've been consistent throughout. I said yes. Please stop asking me about Greece. I feel like I've talked about Greece so much. In theory, in theory. Um, Mate, I still stand my girl Nina. Happy Denmark kind of qualified because of the people who watched her live streams on Instagram. I think we are witnessing the phenomena of the Miscongeniality Award. I'm just gonna be completely real with y'all. I think the miscongeniality of it all. Um, yeah, I think the miscongeniality of it all really um, helped certain countries. I think that also helped Iceland. It shows that charisma and personality can propel you if you're maybe on the cusp. And that doesn't take away from the talent or anything, because I do think Denmark made some good decisions when it came to the staging for Sissel's song. I think Act 1 and 2 were great. I think Act 3, we got a little bit Schlager diva, Charlotte Pirelli, and with love, Sissel's not that old. So if I had any type of critique, I felt like the third act was not the best, but I loved everything they did in the beginning. I think with the young boys, I think that what they were, what is it? We're calling it Iceland's Jedward vibe. I think that they really had the energy and really brought some good vibes to the Eurovision stage. But like, let me be very clear. Um, uh, they're not winning me over with the song. Like I'm still not going to be listening to that song. But it's not my cup of tea. And I think there's a difference between like hating on something, thinking something is bad, and just recognizing, oh, it's not my cup of tea. I'm falling in the latter category. I think it's neither good nor bad. I'm like, oh, it's not really my thing. But I actually should say, I think it is good. Like I don't think it's bad, but it's not my thing. Um, Mick Ramy Marsh, Love Hallucination, but Sissel qualified, not the song. Sergio, Australia is competing with Malta and Finland. It was not a first choice. Papa, Switzerland shocked me. Didn't expect to enjoy it so much. Hebeka, I think casuals were playing X Factor and just put Sissel through because of the insane vocal. Well, I will say Sissel sounded great. Y'all know, if you ask me, probably like my favorite vocalist from this year, I can recognize the acrobatics of some, but like my personal taste is Sissel's like vocal tone. Like that's just the vocal tone that I enjoy to listen to. Um, Iceland and Denmark aren't listenable. Let's be honest there. That's what Mate is saying. Um, and Alt, the vocals, styling, and staging were not sufficient from Iceland. The song was nothing groundbreaking. Okay. Okay. And then Lori says, I'd be here for another Swiss win. And then Loris, could jury love Denmark because of her vocals? That's one thing that I think we noticed from the pre-parties this year is we actually have a pretty strong vocal performance this year. We really don't have that many performers kind of giving us bum notes. And let's be real, the bum notes are real on the Eurovision stage. We do get bum notes more frequently than I would like to experience at a competition of this level. But this year, for the most part, I think we actually have a lot of strong singers. So thinking that Sissel will be one of the standout vocalists this year is challenging when you've got JJ, when you've got Justina, we've got some vocal tour de forces in the mix. Claudia from Greece, like, just throwing it out there. So I think, in some years where it's just like, oh, that vocal's so good, like it's gonna win. I don't know that this is that year. Um, and then Liam, I'm predicting Latvia top 10. Jack, I'm super scared for the UK. Gary, most of the bum notes were left in the semifinals anyway. Cyprus has by shot. Okay, Cyprus I actually didn't hear any bum notes from, and maybe it's because the backing track was so loud, but that's where I'm living. Okay, well, this is a special edition Eurovision State of Play, and it's a special edition because it's a crossover edition. It's a crossover edition. And some of y'all know that I do this thing called the Ladies' Choice live streams. They're great. I bring together people from different pockets of the fandom, and we do have a special guest today. But, you know, I can't do nothing without a theme song. I can't do anything without a theme song. So, we're going to be transitioning the state of play into the Ladies' Choice live stream. You ready to go? We have to Ladies. It's a Ladies' Choice live stream. Ladies. It's a Ladies' Choice live stream. Girls. Ladies' Choice. Come on, Ladies' Choice live stream. Ladies' Choice. It's a Ladies' Choice live stream. Now coming to the stage all the way from, I don't know if it's cold or if it's sunny, Norway it is. Viv, how are you doing and feeling today?
Well, I'm a bit depressed after last night because we lost my favorite.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been cheering for Czechia ever since I first heard the song. But with the performance yesterday, I was like, the minute I saw it, I was like, okay, sorry, it's not happening.
Yeah, I think I had the same sentiment. We're gonna get into that, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about this, and of course we have to get into our running order. But before we do that, coming to us all the way from one of my favorite Eurovision countries, and a country that we're gonna have to talk about this. We're gonna have to do some things next year. It's Louise from the Eurovision podcast. Okay, I think everyone's coming here with a little bit of heaviness, right? A little bit of heaviness, and that's okay. I don't know if you were able to participate in our meditation portion when we kicked off the stream. We did have a meditation portion in it, and if it gets too tense again, we can bring it back. We can bring it back. We can bring it back. But you know what? Right now, I'm saying we might need justice. We might need vindication. Okay? So, yeah, what were the countries that you really feel like were the ones that got away? And Louise, I'll let you kick off because we heard from Viv, obviously, lighters for Czechia.
Is this in semi-final too, Alesia?
Both, because we're previewing the final, so semi one or semi-final two.
Well, you can tell I'm just jumped on the stream in pure ladies' choice fashion. I was a little bit delayed today because I was at a beauty appointment. We got to make ourselves ready for the ladies' choice live stream. But hello, everyone. Hello, Viv and Alesia. Thank you for having me again. Hello to the chat. I think I have to hark back to semi-final one. I was very sad about Belgium and Cyprus. I would have been, in my personal Eurovision Song Contest, putting those two through over others. I think the Cypriot vocal did not come together, but I just loved everything else about the package. Belgium was just one of those non-qualifiers that I think a lot of us are very, very sad about. And I know we're probably going to touch on Ireland later, but I don't feel too sad about it this year. It's not Brooke 2022 for me.
Okay. Yeah. With any other countries, we mentioned Czechia from last night. Any big losses for you from semifinal one?
Not really. I think I got all my songs through from semi one. I would have chosen Slovenia perhaps over San Marino, but other than that, I'm super happy. So I call that a win.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah, and
spoiled.
I never. Y'all know what kind of music I like. So losing Belgium was, I never had it very high on my list anyway.
Hmm.
I do understand why people are sorry because it's a catchy song and he's a good singer. And a lot of my friends also are super sad that Belgium didn't qualify. But up here we have this thing called This Year's Belgium, and that is a favorite that everyone is sure is going to qualify and that doesn't. It started with Kate Ryan. And that's
Okay.
when we started calling it this year's Belgium. And I've been saying all along that I think Belgium is going to be this year's Belgium. And it was.
Yeah. So I want to kind of hop in because I think let's oh wait, here we go. Okay, and I'm like I'm trying to do my setup, but oh, I realize I don't have it. I wanted us to take a little moment to look at the running order because we did get our running order. And I'm curious looking at this how y'all are sort of feeling about what we got. Um we have Norway opening the show. We have Albania closing. I think people, the conversations in the fandom right now are that like Sweden, France, even Austria being in ninth position. Lorien had second time around had ninth position, I believe. So what's standing out to you all in this running order?
I think when you mentioned Austria there in ninth, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Loreen was ninth with Tattoo, and Duncan Lawrence had a spot similar to that as well. And that area feels like the favorable part of semi-final one to be popped into. So Albania's been done a little bit of a favor there. I think as soon as I saw this last night, what jumped out at me was spot 23 and 24. I thought, oh, they want a Swedish French showdown. This is what the producers are angling for. Sweden obviously did well in their semi final. France is probably going to do very well, particularly with juries, a very strong performance. It's good TV, it's good drama to have two potential favourites, two potential winners up beside each other, one after the other. Albania last is a choice. It's interesting. Could it be the EBU trying to appease fans? Because we know within the fan bubble, so many of us love Albania. It's such a big fan favorite. Are they wanting the fans to come away from the show feeling good, appeasing fans at the end of the show, coming away from Eurovision with a positive feeling after that last performance, perhaps? Equally, it could be something way more boring, like something to do with props. San Marino doesn't have a massive amount in terms of props, so maybe after France and all the cork sand stuff. Albania's messier, put that later on. It could literally be something like that. One other quick thing which I saw on X last night, I don't know if any of you guys saw this. Those run from 2, 3, 4, and 5 were almost exactly the same as last year, except the Netherlands was where Estonia is. But if you think about Europapa and Espresso Macchiato, and even the fact that Jos Klein and Tommy Cat are very publicly friends and very similar vibe of song, not the exact same, obviously, but I would say a similar enough fan base. It's very interesting the way they've tucked Israel into that running order. Again, sticking them on early and then moving on with the show. It's a really interesting running order, but it's maybe more excited for the final, I think.
Viv, I mean, with all of your years of Eurovision knowledge, do you think this is going to be a good show? Because here's my thing that I will say I like about it. There were moments in the semifinals where I had chunks of boredom,
Yeah.
a little bit. With this, I actually don't think I have chunks of boredom. Right when I might get a little bit bored, I'm like perked back up. So I'm sort of okay with that. And I just really hope that they plan in the script some nice beats after, particularly France and Switzerland, because I will need to get myself together after crying. And I would just like I would prefer not to be in tears at the start of Malta. Like something about that feels really weird. Same thing with San Marino, to be sort of consoling and getting myself together before Tutta Italia feels very strange. So I just hope that there is some talking or a commercial break that I can compose myself for those pieces. But yeah, Viv, what are you thinking?
I mean, I probably would have swapped a few around, but I'm thinking the way they've built this final is gonna be quite interesting to watch. I think it's gonna be entertaining. I don't see any sort of uh, parts or bits or sections that are gonna be super dull. They haven't sort of gathered all the up tempos as we have seen a couple of times before, where you got like 3 or 4 up-tempo songs right after the other. And I'm thinking here they're actually managed to get sort of like it. I'm a bit upset with Norway at the beginning, I have to admit. I don't think that's the best opener. I do understand why they put it there, but then you have, as you said, 2, 3, 4, 5 after that, uh, before the show actually starts. So where does that leave Norway? Um, I also appreciate that Sweden and France are right after each other, like you said. And what I like especially with that is that they're so different, even though they're both favorites. Um, and the way they just put them together is really, really nice. I was completely in tears at the end of Switzerland last night. So yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Well, we've got some comments, so I'll hop into that. So ESC Bitistrava, Erica got the same exact slot as Katia. We got someone saying I think Spain would have been a good opener. I actually, I'm not gonna lie, I was starting to think that Spain would be opening this show. I do know sometimes the EBU may overcorrect sometimes because of the perceived bias that the big five countries had. So I didn't know if maybe there was like a little sense there with that. But I was like, yeah, like we could kick off the show with Essa Diva. Um, the only reason why I kind of said Norway maybe wouldn't work is because the choice of the staging is a bit dark. You know, it doesn't have sort of that burst of energy. Like it's good, it's slick, it's professional, but it doesn't have kind of that like, all right now Eurovision is starting, razzle dazzle. You know, I do feel a little bit like Esadiva is giving us that, but I don't know, maybe what held them back is the random stairs in the middle of the stage that aren't even really fully utilized. But you know, maybe we should just get to kind of the meat of the discussion, which is, I mean, if we're looking at this running order, do we feel like some people's chances or some countries' chances to win are enhanced by this? And maybe some other ones are dampened a little bit. I've long said, I think this year that I feel like the odds are a little bit bunk. um, this year, and I think the semifinals sort of proved that. But I will just note at the top of the odds right now, Sweden is still in the lead with a 42% chance of winning. Austria has a 21% chance of winning. And then we've got France with 10%. And then we have a dip. And then fourth position is actually the Netherlands with 5% chance of winning. And then Finland is in fifth position with a 4% chance of winning. But as we saw in the semifinals, the odds really were slightly bunk this year. Let me just hop into some of the Lorindy, France ain't winning it this year. Um, Black Bean Pace, I would have liked Poland to open for the narrative, or Ukraine. The girl's voice is like a sunrise. San Marino to close. Marco said they had San Marino right there to open the final with a bang. Lorindy says UK is dead. Um, and then alt on our kind of winner potential conversation, it's going to be Sweden or a surprise winner. I don't see France nor Austria taking it. And then Demetris says Sweden is not winning this year. Um, yeah, maybe Louise, do you think any country is kind of helped by this and their winning chances should go up? Or do you, and conversely, do you think any countries that maybe we were clocking to possibly win are hurt a little bit by this running order?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like, in a dream ideal world, wouldn't you love to say if it's the winner, it would win from any spot? But we know, like, there's statistics to prove, to back up the fact, and there's great YouTube channels out there like ESC Tom. We always shout him out on our podcast. Stats and analysis that do prove that you do have more favorable odds when you are in certain spots in the running order. Of course, we to kind of further compound that, we do know the producers then give those more favorable spots to favorites and so on. So it's an interesting discussion in itself. But to go back quickly to what I said earlier, I do personally think Sweden is still taking this year, and I think that spot is very favorable for them, given that, local viewers do. Maybe I'm speaking for Irish people because Irish people are obsessed with odds, and I'm always trying to tell them that's just because you're all down on the bookies putting money. It doesn't mean there's actually any science behind that. But they will always ask, and who's the favorite, and who's the favorite, and then they kind of sit and wait to see who the favorite is so they can judge, should they be the favorite, should I vote for them? So there'll be anticipation leading up the whole way through the final, a swell towards Sweden's performance. Austria is a very interesting one. I personally have never felt the hype behind this one. I know it's kind of been pitched as a potential winner in the fan community since its release. I think with the spot that they have, it's more difficult for them now because they have Switzerland following, which I truly think Switzerland is in the top three of that jury based on the reaction of everybody. There's very few people organically I've interacted with who don't love Switzerland and don't feel something. And Switzerland is absolutely going to stand out with how intimate it is with those camera angles. She has such a beautiful tone and vocal. I think viewers are going to really like it as well. And I still think France, we see that juries just typically love France. And it's such an authentic performance as well. I think you can feel from Luan when she's performing that it's real and it's coming from the heart. So people are going to respond to that. So I think those three at play, Switzerland, Sweden, and France, are kind of just pushing Austria to the side a little bit. Another country which hasn't come up yet properly in terms of the running order, I know it was mentioned about the same spot as Karia, Finland in 13th, closing out that first half. I don't think it's impossible for Erica to do it, but it's just giving me more solid top five at this moment in time. And both in UMK and in the semi final, I felt like I was waiting for the Erica concert and that everybody else was like kind of warming us up, kind of getting us ready. She doesn't have that behind her this time. And maybe 13 songs following her will just make the performance more forgettable.
I think that's an interesting point. I do look, y'all. I think I mentioned like the different scenarios, and I'm wondering if this is kind of like a 2022 year. And when I say that, I mean in many ways Spain was kind of like what the obvious-ish winner. And I wonder if, and I'm trying to figure out, is Finland like really kind of our obvious winner, or is it Sweden? Like, is it Sweden with it being at the top of the betting odds and everyone just going like, oh, it's just so great and it's going to win. And then we sort of have a shield country, aka, if I'm talking 2022, the UK, where it's just so well executed and the performer is just so charismatic. And I wonder if it's like, okay, is that our France? Because so I don't know. And then we end up maybe having Austria get it. I'm I, I'm just living in a world where I feel less like Austria can get it, but I told you I'm biased. It's because my pauper heart has just been broken so many times at Eurovision that I'm just like, we're gonna get it now. Like is this gonna be the moment? And I don't know if I feel that confident with it. Whereas I do feel more of a confidence for Sweden. I feel more of a confidence for Finland. I feel more of a confidence for France. And I'll be real, I had a Twitter space or X space conversation last night, and I do have to just say, y'all, if we all think that Albania is winner worthy, then why aren't we acting like it? Like, bump what the odds are saying, because to me, that performance, semifinal one, I thought was great. And y'all know it's my, it's kind of like my personal number one, kind of tied with Finland. So I mean, when I think of who I'm voting for tomorrow, or maybe even, I guess, tonight or tomorrow morning or whatever, I'm thinking I'm kind of putting my money on Finland, France, and Albania. I think that's where I'm going. Viv, where are you at?
Well, I would love it to be Switzerland again. I would be super happy with an Albanian win. Absolutely. It's not my favorite song. It's probably in my top 5. But I would be very, very happy with a new winner, and a winner that's not in English. So Iceland would also be in that, a non-English winner who hasn't won before. Not that it's going to happen. But no, I think it's going to be Sweden. I think we all think it's going to be Sweden. I would be very happy if Sweden won with this song, but not yet. I think they've won enough in the past few years, so it would be nice if they finished second, maybe, because the song is fun. And I would much rather they win with this kind of song than the Heroes Tattoo thing that they always do. I think perhaps Austria is a bit too much for the average viewer. I've talked to a lot of non-Eurovision people who watched the semi, and they were like, he's obviously a very good singer, but it was a bit too, I don't know, in your face, kind of. And I think Finland is probably gonna do really, really well, even with even starting from 13. I think they would have benefited swapping places with, I don't know, maybe even Albania. It was a great finish to the show last night, closing with Finland. It was everything built up to her. So I totally see what you said, Alesia, with half the songs coming after her. Maybe she'll drown out. This is actually a hard year to predict. I still think it's going to be Sweden.
Just to add to that, Alesia, I thought your take on like maybe being a 2022 year is interesting. I personally see it more being a 2019 year. And the reason being, Duncan Lawrence won with second on one side. I can't remember
Could
which
I
was which,
could I
third on
say,
the other.
yeah, could I say I said that as well, where I was like, I don't think we are gonna have the winner in each. I don't think the jury winner is gonna win overall, and I don't know that the televote winner is gonna win overall, but I meant more so vibe wise, not
Yeah.
results wise of 2022. Yeah, that I was like
I get
more
you.
vibe wise of what that conversation was like in the lead up to
Mm.
2022. And I even kind of rewatched even our chats in 2022. And I
Well, our
was like,
takes.
yeah. And I was like, because we had some semifinal surprises in 2022.
Mm.
2023, I didn't feel like we did in 2024. I didn't feel like we really had semifinal surprises. But this year, I think we have had some surprises. So that's why I was like, maybe the vibe is a little bit more
On
2022 ish. Yeah.
I agree. And like 2019, definitely in terms of results. And the reason why I say that, and I've probably said this already on one of your streams, but I know like people are asking why Sweden and what's the reason people are saying it. And it's from a more analytical point of view, it's the one country I just feel very confident that they can achieve top four in both a jury and televote scenario, and that's going to push them to the front. We know there's going to be certain countries with televote surge and a jury surge, and I'm not as confident on those countries pulling from the other, because we're always dealing with this 50-50 with the results. And I could see Sweden doing a mad random third over here, fourth over here, doop, 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 up it goes. And I feel like the points could be really close this year. I don't think it's going to be a runaway.
We talked about that last night as well. This is going to be close. It's not going to be like, I mean, when you look at the odds, a lot of people do, and they go like, okay, so Sweden has like 157% chance of winning. So they're going to win by a mile. And I'm like, no, if they win, they're going to win by this much. And I think
Yeah.
whoever wins this year is going to win by this much.
Yeah, I do think we are looking at a tight situation, Louise.
I was just going to say, I have an eye on the chat. Someone's asked, how would Sweden get top four in the jury? Like, I know it was Melody Festival, but he beat Måns Zelmerlöw with like one of the most jury bait songs. Like, I feel like if Måns was in this conversation today, if he had gotten 8 points more than Kai in Melfest, we'd be saying, oh, it's probably going to be another kind of jury push, boring Måns win. I think if Kai could do it with, I know, a smaller amount of juries in Melfest, I don't think it's impossible they could get fourth or fifth in the jury. So that's just to back up my hot
Well,
take.
I'll also say, remember what position Katia and Croatia last year came. That's why, and I mean that's just evidence and fact. Like that's why seeing Sweden, of all countries, making it there makes a lot of sense. I think, and I will also say, I think that it is possible that Sweden, I'm now living in the world where Sweden might not win the televote too. That, like, I could see them, and I mean, it being tighter than it has been in recent years. So, and I think there was a comment. Oh, here we go. You guys are forgetting big televote favorites. Someone could be stealing the show if the jury don't pick one clear favorite. I think with the televote favorites, looking at this list, what? Estonia is going to be a televote favorite. Israel's going to be a televote favorite. Ukraine is not out of the running to be a televote, favorite. But then lest we forget our Finlands, lest we forget Sweden, and lest we forget that the European public, when it comes to televoting, they love when France sends a French ballad. And guess what? Are they going to blank Switzerland doing the French ballad with the good camera work and everything? I think that we have a lot of fodder on both sides, and that's why I think this conversation around it being tight this year is absolutely on the nose. Um, uh, Exir says, "Hi Alicia," or "Hey Alicia, I'm Swiss, and I was in the arena for the semifinal one jury show. It was an amazing experience. So, do you think Switzerland can win the whole thing the same way like Nemo did, landslide jury and top five televote?" I'll be honest, no, just because of I think the trends that we have when it comes to the host countries. But I do think what Switzerland is doing to bring the song to life is going to save it from being Ojardimed. I've been nervous this whole season that it would get Ojardimed, and I don't think that that's going to say that. I don't think that that's going to happen. Lucy says, I don't think you can put Sweden in the same bag as Katia this year. Quite dismissal, in my opinion. I'm like, why is that dismissal? Katia had a ton of fan hype, and maybe because you didn't like what Katia did. I don't know if that's what the read is here. But I mean, Finland had a ton of hype that year. There are people who are still butthurt that Finland lost in 2023, even though Loreen came second with the televote, like legit came second with the televote. So I do think putting Kai in this category of the fun, it's crazy, it's party is absolutely accurate when we look at the whole of our Eurovision ecosystem, particularly this year.
But I mean, looking at the Switzerland France thing. I played both songs for my colleagues today, and everyone, and I mean absolutely everyone, preferred Switzerland. And what was so interesting, my colleagues are both men and women. The youngest is 25 and the oldest is 70 almost. And every single one of them said that if they had to choose between those two, they would go for Switzerland. I think it's a lot more, I don't know, it's more tender in a way. I think France is this powerful, her vocals are huge, and people are impressed, but maybe not as touched as you get by the Swiss entry. And there is something in her voice that just grabs hold of my soul and just goes like that.
I mean,
So,
I was in a puddle
yeah.
semifinal one, and I will say, y'all, I mean, Slovenia got me, and I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm like, I have heard this song. Why is it? And I think it was honestly the video playing in the background and piping in some of that sound. I mean, it just full puddle. I also will just highlight this comment. So not France and Switzerland both fighting for the jury win for the third time in 4 years, but I want to raise y'all another thing too, because I have been consistent this whole season. Well, I shouldn't say the whole season because we had to wait until we got the song, but I think Greece is in there. I think after that stage show, I think they did Tasteful very well. I think Greece is in there. I'm just saying when the juries come down to voting, because the thing is, the juries love a vocal and everything, but they do like innovative staging. And that's another piece that I'm like, I do think with Austria, they are doing the innovative staging piece. My only challenge with the innovative staging piece that they've decided to go with is if you're someone who maybe didn't connect with the song, I don't know that JJ is pulling you in because there's so much happening narrative wise. I don't know if it's pulling folks in the way that I would say like Zoe is kind of pulling people in. And even Claudia, I mean, even though Claudia's got the staging and it's kind of grand, we do still get kind of these intimate moments with her where she is sort of looking at the camera and connecting with us directly. I don't know that JJ had a lot of moments to effectively do that. And I say that for the people who needed to be won over.
I see Greece doing well. Jury definitely. Jury definitely. Like a top 10, a lower top 10 is what I see happening for sure. But I agree with the earlier comment that it does seem like Switzerland and France scrapping again. Another country which seemed to come up earlier on in the season regarding the conversation of the juries and has pulled their performance together quite well after a poorly received rehearsal is the Netherlands. And I remember early on in the season, people saying, oh, I think juries will love this style of performance from the Netherlands. I remember Eurovision Hub, Mihal over there made a video where all of the Melody Festivalen artists checked out a lot of this year's Eurovision entries. They're the type of people who are on juries, and they all went crazy for the Netherlands. So what do you all think about that? Do you think they can shoot up the jury scoreboard?
I think they could, but I wish that they gave this a different staging package. I think the staging package is beautiful. I just wouldn't have necessarily made these choices for this entry. The third act of it, I think, works, but the Netherlands really, I'll just be blunt. They have got to figure out somebody else to work with when they actually have songs that are a little bit like upbeat. You know, mom broke me. Like that staging was not the staging package I would have done. I would have made some other decisions. I would have done some different camera work. I would have just done something different. And I think with the Netherlands, they do well with kind of the quiet, melancholic things. And I think they always struggle when there's a little bit of a beat. Because, I mean, I'll be frank, the Europapa staging last year was not giving me like winner potential staging, even though we had buzz and we're talking about like, ooh, what could this do? You know, there was a lot of moments where that staging felt very empty. I'd say very reminiscent of what Estonia is doing this year too, where it's no, like if we want to do fun, look at what Luxembourg is doing now. I know Luxembourg has a lot of money, clearly. But but like that's a good example of fun and it doesn't have to be exactly that way. But you know what I'm saying? Like I do think the Netherlands could do well with juries, but I think that they could have done way better with a different concept. Viv, what do you think?
I I'm not really a super fan of the Netherlands this year. I have to admit, I'm one of the few people who, I mean, I love the beginning. It's gorgeous and his voice is stunning. But I don't really go for songs that half the song is beautiful and then they do this and something completely different happens. Um, we had quite good reactions to their staging at my viewing thing. And a lot of people went like, "Oh, this is so gorgeous!" And the moment when he looks at, everyone goes like, "Oh." But I think the staging that impressed most people was Luxembourg. It is super fun. It's super cute. And it's like when she finally breaks loose and she comes out as a completely different person and strong and cool. Even my students who are 9 and 10 years old were like, wow, this is so fun. Can we see it again? When I showed it to them today. So, yeah. I think there are a lot of missed opportunities staging wise this year. There are quite a
I
few.
agree. Like
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna get because I've been setting up that I'm like a lot of these songs really aren't even the best studio cuts, but when you listen to them, there's a cinematic quality of it where it's like you can almost see what people could do. And the staging has felt a little bit, I think the word that I would use is restrained almost, where it's like almost they know that they could have done a little bit more. And I think it makes some of the other entries that are going for it stand out, like Poland, like Finland, like Luxembourg, these countries that really are doing it. It makes the other ones kind of go, oh, oh, well, we could have done this. I thought we could have done that, I thought we could have done this, but we're gonna have to wrap up this conversation. I'm gonna leave. We'll leave on a high note. Most anticipated performance, and maybe you could do two or three, but most anticipated performance for Saturday night. Louise, I'll kick off with you and then go with you, Viv.
It's so hard to choose. It's so hard to pick. Um, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and shout out my guys' vibe from Iceland because I feel like they never fully expected to make it to the final. They were hoping that they would. They've achieved the goal. They're going to bring all of the silver that Ireland can't to the final. And like just the fun, youthful vibes. I can't wait to see that. And I am going to be so fascinated to see Albania, also one of my favorites this year, Alesia. I can't wait to see Albania closing out the show and what the crowd reaction is. And an honourable mention, again, we're all big Switzerland fans, with that home crowd.
I kind of was going to say exactly the same ones, actually. Iceland, because it's such a fun song. It just makes everyone smile, even though you might not necessarily love this style of music. It's just a fun song. They are super cute. I think I know, Alicia, don't necessarily agree, but I think that they've managed to sort out their vocals. I mean, I remember them from Songwakatten last year, where they hardly hit a single note. And when I heard they were returning this year, I was like, seriously, I hope someone's giving them singing lessons. And apparently, someone had, because on Tuesday they were really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing them, because, of course, they had to hold back a little bit on Tuesday, because the main thing then was qualifying. And now I think they're just going to go out there and have the time of their life. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how extremely high they can get. And I love Switzerland's performance. I was almost in tears the whole way through, and then when she finished and looked right at me, um, and should I be a bit more original and not say Albania as well?
I'm loving the synergy today, ladies.
Albania. Yeah, I mean, it is Albania. They are really, really great. Can I be a bit disappointed before we go? I'm a bit disappointed with the Latvian performance. I think they should have kept I think they should have kept the costumes they wore before, these etherical, beautiful, flowy things, instead of the bodysuits they wore. All of a sudden, the whole mood just changed. I still like it a lot. It's up there in my top 10, definitely. But no, it just kind of lost something with the performance, I think.
I mean, I think for me, yeah, I'm thinking of who I'm honing in on, and I want to see France again. I think apparently they said Luan is switching up the outfit, so I always care about the styling, so I'm curious about that. I want to see Albania close the show because there was something so, like, I just felt so prepared for them semifinal one, and it was like they exceeded my expectations. And there was something about sitting through some of the songs that I personally find to be a bit just like middle of the road, and then getting to Albania and it was like, whoa. And I wonder if watching Albania close the show might give me that same sense where I'm like, I was fawning over these other ones. Um, but also too, I'm excited to see Justina and Erica. I'm putting them in the same category a little bit, like where it's like the stage shows are just on such another level, and like the kitchen sink, the pantry, everything is in it. So I'm excited to watch those with a crowd. I will be at the Swiss Embassy watch party here in Washington D.C. So I'm going to be around quite a few expats and hopefully a couple of American novice folks, sort of like, what did my friend invite me to? So that's always kind of fun to see the faces of people who are like, I haven't heard or seen any of these performances before. So I will be doing a live stream during the show. I want to thank my ladies' choice panelists, Louise and Viv, for joining me. And I want to thank everyone who joined the stream. We've got a lot of people here. Y'all, we got to get hype. We have to get hype. We're going to find out where the 70th Eurovision Song Contest is going to be happening next year. If any other reason, even if you feel like this year, I'm not that big of a fan, we need to be locked and loaded, and ready to see what is going to go down on that stage. I'm ready to book some flights. Okay, I might be one of those people that just books the refundable hotels, and we'll see. So we'll see what's gonna happen. Thank y'all for joining. Thank you for watching.